Hi there, Chris here with another fresh tip for you all. In this video we are going to continue our look at painting the Primaris Outrider from the Indomitus 40K box set. In this video we are going to work on the little metal bits such as the hubcaps and little doodads and of course the exhaust pipes. Lead Belcher is what we're going to use with some Abaddon Black. We are going to mix this together in roughly a 1-to-1 mix ratio, giving us a very nice dark metallic color. I'm going to use a fairly generous amount of water here to thin the color out ever so slightly, and I'm also going to begin applying this in a nice even fashion on the surfaces, so we will apply probably more than one layering on a lot of these little areas. I'm going to do the wheel rims as well as that little bolt, I guess, I don't know, that runs to the wheel. We're also going to do that little doodad under the middle of the body, as well as it looks like the ammo feed for the machine guns, and of course other odds and ends, as well as the exhaust pipes. So really quickly, we are just simply working our way through. Again, with this color, it is a much darker than regular Lead Belcher, obviously because we've added the black to it. Now when it finishes, it does finish quite dark, and this gives us a different look than if we had simply laid Lead Belcher down and applied Null oil or whatever on top of it, right? And that is fun because obviously we want a nice deep tone. I really wanted to go with this instead of, using Lead Belcher in the typical fashion we normally would apply it, whereas we just simply lay it down on surface and then give a shade wash on top of it. And in fact, we're just going to simply start building up right from this point. So we're going to do things just a little bit different than what we normally do. But anybody who's been watching me paint for any length of time knows that I've employed this similar kind of method in the past. We're also going to color in those little openings inside the grill on this covering that kind of mounts over the dual exhaust, as it were. It's just like a little muffler protector or what have you. The exhaust for the pipes is also done, and you may notice that I also had drilled out the exhaust there so that we get that nice three-dimensional form, as well as the bolters themselves. We're going to use Warp Lock Bronze. I'm going to slap a little bit onto the palette, and I'm also going to thin it down just a little bit with water, and we are going to apply this over the entirety of the mount cover or whatever the heck it is. I assume it's just a cover, it's a mount or whatever, I don't know. Any motorcycle enthusiasts will tell me what that is exactly, but we're just simply going to apply this onto the surface. I'm applying this, and it's not like it's going on really nice and smooth and everything like that, but I'm not too worried, and so I only do one coat. Lead Belcher is next. We're going to take a fairly generous amount of medium. I think I'm going to apply 1 dollop of paint down, and I'm going to use about 3 dollops of Lamian medium to thin it down. Not quite doing like a glazing, as it were, but we are kind of beginning the highlighting process onto these little metal bits. And with this, we are bringing it up as, of course, we are working on top of that dark metallic, and you'll see the pure Lead Belcher. It actually looks quite bright next to the previous layer. And with this, I'm just simply going to build this up as a first highlight, and I'm applying this over pretty much half of each of the little details. So I'm only working the paint up about halfway on each of the little details. So on that little ammo feed, on each of those little segments, I do about half of the of each of those little details, as it were, halfway down the barrels. We also do the little, I don't know what that is, like a little engine cover on the sides there, as well as the handlebars get a little highlight as well. It wasn't quite shown in the previous step there, but I did apply metal on those areas, as well as the little bar that's just above his seat. And on the exhaust pipe, I'm applying this over pretty much the entirety of that pipe itself. And with the exhaust pipes, we're just simply, again, we're just applying this over halfway down. This is really our first highlight, even though this is really more like our base color in the normal sense of things. But because we started off so darn dark, we are going to, just simply begin highlighting our way up from here. And of course, you make little boo-boos because the color's really thin. You can just simply use your finger just to very quickly wipe the excess away. Next, we're going to take some iron breaker. We're going to add that to that mixture. So it's a little bit stronger iron breaker than lead Belcher, but it's closer to a 1-to-1, but it's probably a little heavier on iron breaker than it is lead Belcher as far as being a mixture is concerned. We're applying this at about 1/3 of the details. And of course, with the rims on the wheels, I'm applying the highlights on the bottom portion. Pretty much anywhere I'm applying these highlights is on the bottom portion, except the pipes. The pipes, I do the upper portion. So the highlights are above. And I'm just kind of making this up as I go. I'm just kind of having fun and just applying the highlights where I want them. Typically, whenever you are being mindful of how you're placing highlights, when you're applying them in an upward fashion, where you imagine light source is above the model in a more of a traditional kind of sense, and you're doing this with metallics, it's often representing more of a kind of a matte kind of finish on the metallic, and there's not a lot of reflectivity, versus when you're applying that highlight down below in kind of a non-metallic metal fashion that is actually kind of more of a shinier, reflective type of metallic fashion that you're going for. Runefang Steel is next. We're going to slap this onto our palette. Just the dampness of the brush is just enough to thin the color out, and a quick little highlight on some of the edges. If you want to do a little edge highlight on some of these details, you can see here on the bottom of that wheel, and we're just really catching just, again, the very bottom corners here on the ammo feed. It's really just up one side of that little detail and catching those little, I don't know, those little details. I don't know what those little mounts, I guess, the little links that keep the segments together, I guess that's really what that is representing. On big surfaces, like you've seen on the inside of that engine cover, I did kind of a crescent shape on that, kind of almost like a gemstone type of brush stroke on those areas. And then on the ends of gun barrels and things of that, and the exhaust pipes, I do pretty much the entire broad face of the end, just to really bring it out. On those couplings, I do just a quick little highlight on the upper portion, and again, it's pretty consistent as I do these highlights as I work my way around. It's just a quick little highlight, but you can see we've built up to a really nice bright silver. Next, we're going to take some Nuln Oil Gloss. Now, this is normally after we use this after our base coat, but I'm going to use it to bring a bit more tone and variation, and of course, reestablish some of those dark points on these details, get in between some of the little nooks and crannies and things like that. And because it's a gloss, it'll finish nice and shiny. And I'm also applying this over the warp block bronze that is on that covering on the exhaust pipes. This is just to knock that color way down, and we don't have to worry about losing any kind of metallic luster. I'm also applying it inside where I had drilled the exhaust pipes out as well, just to get a nice bit of color there. I probably will come back in with Abaddon Black and fill the holes in properly, just to get a nice deep shadow in those areas. But otherwise, this is just to kind of help marry all those transitions together and, bring a bit of darkness back in. Warp Block Bronze is next with a heavy helping of medium. I'm going to begin just simply using Warp Block Bronze and use this in a similar fashion what we had done with the lead Belcher, where this is basically the beginning of our highlighting process, because the Nuln Oil has darkened the overall feeling. And with the lead Belcher, we're bringing the color bit back. And I'm really kind of just concentrating these highlights on the bend of the surface. So on the lower portion of the face of that, I'm catching just the bottom portion. And then when you look at it from above, I'm catching just the high point there. Again, it's kind of a non-metallic metal type of vibe, but obviously with metallics. Runefang Steel is being added to this mixture of Warp Block Bronze. It's probably close to a 1-to-1. Although I probably could have even gone with, say, a 2 Warp Block to 1 Runefang, doing a quick little edging as well as catching the light at that bend as well. So we're building up that highlight right where the light gathers. And because it has a kind of a slick surface, you can kind of see where the light plays on that surface and use that as your visual guide. And as you can see here, I'm just simply bringing the highlight down to the lower portion of this detail, and then getting the edges as well, also getting the little bolts. but it's pretty straightforward. And you know, it starts to like kind of push the color back, and it starts to look more and more silver. So I figured, you know what, let's add some more Runefang Steel to this mixture. So it's more like a two silver to 1 bronze. And this is more of a controlled highlight that we're going to apply. So it's more edging, and then just a little bit on that bend. We're going to create just a nice bright streak kind of right through that little area. And because I have the color thinned out with medium in the previous initial application of the bronze, that's translated into all this application as well. So also bear that in mind, that it does have that bit of medium in there. Cryptek Armor Shade Gloss is next. This is a brand new one. And basically I'm going to use this to retint and change the value of this bronze again, deepen it all back up, and bring all that nice rich bronze color back to this. I really like this color on top of metallics, as it's just fantastic. As you may notice, I'm pushing the color where I want to build it up to create a nice deep dark tone on those surfaces. So you'll notice that I'm pushing the brushstroke upwards where I want the tone to get darker. On the outer edges, I just simply deepen the color and make it nice and dark, just to create nice separation in those between the covering and the pipes. And that'll be pretty much it. I'll let that dry, and then I will touch it up again with a little bit more Cryptek. But there it is. That is the metal bits on this bike, as well as that grill covering on the exhaust pipes. It's as easy as that. It's really not terribly complex. Of course, you can push those highlights as far as you want, or even create further gradients between colors by mixing, of course, you know, the lead Belcher and iron breaker into further gradients, and work up a greater transition in color, as it were. Stay tuned for part 3 on this one. Big thank you to all my patrons. Without their support, these videos would not be possible. If you're considering Patreon support, click the link in the description below, and you'll be helping the channel out tremendously. And of course, you'll get early access to other videos. Take care of those brushes, and they will take care of you.